Hi, this is Kerry here again. I told you last time that I'd have a episode explaining why I'm using the planters that I use. The majority of these planters are being used just for economic sake, just for the fact that they are actually either cheaply or easily made or cheaply bought. For example, as you can see here, I have these buckets with little ropes sticking out of them. And some of you may have wondered, hey, what's with the buckets? Why do they have handles on them? These are actually buckets that I obtained at a local dollar store. They are sand pail buckets for children. However, they're plastic, and I thought to myself, bet you I could plant some stuff in these. So I went ahead and bought several of them since they're only $1 a piece. And I don't know if you've been to a home improvement store or Walmart or any of the other stores where you can obtain planters, but planters like these over here can cost you anywhere from $2.50 to $6 a piece. I bought these plastic pail buckets here for $1 a piece. The only thing I had to do in order to use these is to drill some small holes in each one of them on the bottom for drainage. Now this particular one I forgot to drill a hole in, and I'll be doing that in a moment, and I'll show you that. But on most of them I just put one small little weep hole, if you can see there, and that's just to allow for drainage. Otherwise the plant roots or the dirt will become saturated. But all I do is I get a drill and I drill myself a small hole in the bottom of these planters, and I use them for various things. These by the way are Scottish and Irish moss. It's a fern. I have them in buckets because I am going to be moving these to a different location later, but I want them to get to their full size, and I'm going to divide these. I'm trying something new this year on these tomato plants. I put the tomato plants in these buckets. I know they recommend that you have at least normally a 2-foot by 2-foot container. However, since I'm using a mixture of compost and peat moss and my own perlite and my own organic mixture, which is just a blend of Texas soil that's been enriched, I thought since I have heavy nutrients that they may be able to still produce quite a few tomatoes. We actually already have one here in the back, as you can see, that's actually quite large and seems to like it in the container. This plant was about the size of this plant right here when I first purchased it. I also have these topsy-turvy strawberry planters hanging above. I purchased those just for sake of space. I told you I was experimenting with vertical gardening, and vertical gardening, in my opinion, comes in two forms. Either growing something up high so it can hang down low, or in the case of these, growing something down low that can grow up high. So what I'm planning on doing with these, I have various vegetables here. On this back wall here, you see I use some welded wire obtained from a Tractor Supply, and I stapled it to the back of the greenhouse wall, and I have peas down below. I'm going to try to make use of every inch of space here. I'm going to let these peas actually climb up this wall that I have here, and you can see some of them have already started to do so, and some back here, and they should intertwine themselves. This plant by here, by the way, is a pomegranate. It's just in here because I'm going to eventually relocate it to a new home. But in the meantime, it loves the greenhouse. Everything I've put in here really loves the humidity and the warmth. It really accelerates plant growth. But back to what I was talking about, this particular plant, and I'm not quite sure, they look a little similar when they're young like this. I believe that is either a squash or a melon. I believe it is, or a cucumber. Actually, it's a cucumber. I see I put a label here. Something important to remember, make sure you label your plants. But I'm going to experiment with letting these bush out and training them to grow over this tomato cage so I can still have a good harvest while not yet having it in the ground and having it mounded up traditionally. I'm also going to try this with this melon that I put in here. I just planted this one today. I put the cage around it. I'm going to experiment with letting the vines grow out and up. I'll keep intertwining the vines around these supports here, and I plan on letting them vine out, and then when the fruits start to form, I'll then put some sort of a net to hold the fruit and secure it to these railings here, or secure it to railings up high, depending on how long the vines get. But that's the plan. I also have some cucumbers and some cantaloupe down here. And again, I'm going to basically just get the vines that come off of them, the runners, and hang the fruit from various places in the greenhouse. These planters here that I made for these tomatoes, instead of having to use tomato cages here, I've just made these out of some fence pickets and put some cloth in to retain the dirt and allow for drainage. But I put these troughs on the side of the greenhouse, and I planned this from the start. I plan on just letting the tomatoes grow up and using the combination of the side walls of the greenhouse, as you can see over here, and this third shelf up high to help support the tomatoes. So it seems to be working well so far. As you can see, I have tomatoes over here, and they just lean up against the sides and they lean up against the walls, and they typically have no problems with that so far. Again, all the plants that I have that normally would vine or bush out, I am going to either let them lean up against the structure, or I'm going to put these tomato cages, or I'm going to secure them into some sort of net, or even this welded wire here. I'll just let the fruit be supported by welded wire, netting, or structure. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I just wanted to discuss why exactly I have these planters. Again, have an open mind. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter what you plant the produce in, as long as it serves the purpose of giving the roots enough room to grow. It doesn't really matter if you spend $1 or $6 for a planter. So I guess we'll go ahead and document and show how these plants come along in these current containers. We'll talk to you next time.